friends, Shay here, and today we're going to do a pseudo recommendation video. It's not really a recommendation video, but this is something that when I put out things for recommendations a little while back, people asked me about. So I've decided to put this together. So this is manga to branch out. So I'm kind of taking each of the 4 core demographics and I'm going to give you 5 recommendations in each. So if you're looking for something to branch out a little bit, these are usually good crossover starter points. So let's go ahead and dive in. First, we're going to talk about shoujo because as people know, I read a lot of shoujo and I think a lot of people don't know where to start if they're coming from like shonen and seinen to know where to start with shoujo. So I've got 5 that I would recommend. The first one is Yona of the Dawn. Yona of the Dawn is the quintessential political fantasy shoujo title. If you have not read Yona of the Dawn, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. Essentially following 16-year-old Yona. On her 16th birthday, she sees the love of her life murder her father, and they think to pin it on her. So she's on the run with the captain of the guard, Hawk, and they go and rally some people together and start going through the kingdom and trying to clean up some messes that they notice along the way. That's all I'm really going to say because I don't want to spoil things. So do explore Yona of the Dawn. I'm doing a whole Yona of the Dawn read along with some of my friends this year. I will leave the first live show that we did linked in the corner so you can check that out. The next one I have here is Requiem of the Rose King. Now, this is a series that will be complete at volume 17, which does come out either later this month or mid next month. I can't remember exactly. But in this one, this is essentially Richard III and Henry VI from Shakespeare mashed up into one series with a slightly paranormal twist. I adore everything about this. Richard, it struggles with their identity, we can say, throughout the course of the series, which I find very engaging and a very important part of the series. And we go through all of the War of the Roses battles from history, and it is brilliant. Period, end of story. I love the art. I love the way the story is told. I love everything about this. Period, end of story. I can't say much more other than, again, this is another political fantasy. So again, if you're coming over from shonen and seinen where they're usually a little more action-centered, these first 2 are definitely going to scratch that itch for you. Now, if you're more of a slice of life reader, these next 3 will be a better fit for you. So the first one is Imokoi, Now I'm in Love. This is one of the best shoujos I've read in recent years. If you liked things like Hatsuharu, this is another great one. So essentially we have this girl who didn't get a chance to confess her feelings to the guy she liked. And so as she enters high school, once she gains a crush on this guy, she kind of does everything in her power to make sure he knows how she feels, and they start a romantic relationship. So this is not the angst of getting into a relationship. This is what you go through in a relationship. And it's brilliantly done. Absolutely adore it. I just love it. Period, end of story. I love both of these characters. I love the art style. And again, it's a very good, very solid, very realistic look at a relationship, especially in high school. So definitely adore that. The next one I have here is My Love Mix-Up. This is a great look at how teens can struggle with their identity and with their crushes, you could say. Essentially in this one, our main guy, the blonde guy here on the cover, picks up an eraser from his crush and sees that someone in their class's name is on it. And that's the thing in Japan where they usually write their crush's name on their eraser. And so he, like the guy that he thinks has a crush on her picks up the eraser and he's like, it's mine, it's me. And so they kind of start a relationship a little bit, but he finds out along the way that the girl he had a crush on initially, the eraser was not about that guy. It was about our blonde guy's best friend. And so it's kind of a little bit messy, but in the best way possible. I absolutely love and adore it. Would definitely 10 out of 10 recommend this series. It's super cute. It's only going to be 9 volumes long, and we have 7 in the US already, so it's not a huge time commitment either. And then the last one I have here is Hatsuharu. Hatsuharu is a shoujo in which we primarily follow the male focus, not the female focus. Essentially, we kind of have the playboy guy who just kind of keeps dating. He's not really into anybody. And then this girl comes up and basically decks him across the face because he had been mean to her best friend. And now he can't think about anybody but her. And he just wants her. And it's amazing to watch their relationship develop. Slowly through their friend group, other relationships start to form, and you see those throughout as well. It's absolutely adorable. I loved everything about this. It's a 13-volume series that's been complete a little over a year, I want to say. And it's so fun. Definitely try this one. All right. So next I'm going to talk about some shonen titles that me, as primarily a shoujo josei slice of life reader, ended up really enjoying. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Crossplay Love. So in this one, we have two teenage boys who end up cross-dressing because they have a crush on the person they're cross-dressing as. So this delinquent guy has a crush on this girl at a maid cafe, but it's actually a kind of otaku classmate who's cross-dressing for work. And so the delinquent starts to cross-dress. And so the otaku starts to crush on the delinquent in the cross-dressing. And so it's just really funny and full of shenanigans. We have 4 volumes out in English right now, and it's a fairly long series. So I'm just really enjoying the dynamic so far. The next one I have here is Love's in Sight. Now in this one, we have, again, the delinquent guy, but our female character is blind, or mostly blind, and needs a cane to walk and such. And so he starts to describe himself to her, and he mentions a scar, and she's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And so she's the first person who's like shown concern for his scar and what happened. And so he falls head over heels for her right away, and things start to develop from there. Only 1 volume's out in English so far. Viz kindly sent it to me, but I ended up really enjoying it, and I think it's a great crossover for the shoujo readers. Another one that I love that has great crossover appeal is Komi Can't Communicate. In this one, we're following a girl who has social anxiety and doesn't talk much at school, and the friendships that she starts to form along the way, thanks to one boy who takes the time to let her write out her feelings and her thoughts so that she can communicate with him. And it's amazing. I love Komi. I love Tadano. Like, it's a forever long series. So maybe read it on the Shonen Jump app if you're unsure, but I like Komi. I do. And I wouldn't read it like back to back to back, like a bunch of volumes, because they'll start to feel a little bit samey, in my opinion. But I think if you spread them out a little bit, they're great. The next one I have here is Inuyasha. Inuyasha is the first shonen romance, like true shonen romance, where romance was the main plot point. This is by Rumiko Takahashi, who is a female mangaka, and I think it's very well done. It does run in circles a bit, and I recommend it probably out of nostalgia because I adore Inuyasha. I think it's so fun. Essentially, we have this half-demon boy who gets set free by this modern girl who was transported back into the feudal era, and about how things go from there. It might not be the feudal era. I don't remember which era. Don't quote me on that. Anyways, back in time, and it's amazing. I do not necessarily recommend the spin-off Yashahime. I didn't get along with Yashahime nearly as well as I did in Inuyasha, but Inuyasha is amazing. Anything Rumiko Takahashi really is amazing, but Inuyasha is a great starting point. And then the last one I have here will probably surprise people, and that is Kaiju number 8. Kaiju number 8 is one of the best new shonens I've started. And in this one, we're following a man who wanted to become like part of the kaiju, like, I forget what it's called. It's like the Destroyer Corps. It's a something corps. I can't remember what right now. But essentially he wanted to fight off the kaiju. But instead he has a job cleaning up the mess after the fighters have done their job. And through a set of circumstances, a kaiju picks him to kind of merge with and becomes this like super kaiju. So the Kaiju number 8. And it's amazing. I loved everything about this. It's got just enough heart and just enough funny to balance out the harder, like the more battle-centered stuff as it goes on. And it's got 6 volumes out in English so far. I absolutely adore it. Cannot wait for more. With that said, let's move on to some seinen titles that are kind of good branch-off points for people who, again, read a lot of shoujo and josei. So the first one I have here is Yakuza Fiancé. Yes, it's a seinen, not a josei, which makes me sad. Essentially, in this one, we have a daughter or granddaughter of a Yakuza boss who ends up betrothed to a son of a Yakuza boss across the country. And so she goes to kind of live over there and try things out for them. She finds out he is not all he presents himself to be in the beginning. He's much more of a sadist. And her grandpa's like, make this boy fall in love with you. And she's like, okay. So she starts to just be mean to him, and he is all over it and obsessed with her now. And it's amazing. I cannot wait for volume 3 to come out. Again, this one only has 2 volumes out in English so far. I cannot wait for more. I'm very, very excited. The next one is Apothecary Diaries. No one's surprised that this is on a list from me. I love the Apothecary Diaries. Again, you're dealing with a political-centered story in which we're following Mao Mao. Mao Mao is a girl who is an apothecary but is trying to lay low and gets pulled into court politics by this gorgeous man. And I love everything about this. I cannot wait for volume 8. I need it desperately. And yes, I just adore this series through and through. We're getting an anime this summer, which makes me super excited because it looks so good. But yes, very, very excited to recommend Apothecary Diaries to someone who's looking to maybe branch out in their demographics. The next one I have here was a bit of a surprise, and that is The Drops of God. This is a wine-centered manga in which we have the son of a person a wine sommelier, I think is what they're called. He's very well renowned. And there are 12 bottles considered the drops of God, where he wants his son to identify all 12. And he's up against another sommelier who was technically his apprentice, to do this to get his inheritance, which is really fun. It doesn't feel super high stakes, but it does at the same time. And it's amazing. I ended up really enjoying the first volume. They are very wordy, so if you don't like super wordy titles, this one might not be a good fit. But yes, I really enjoyed that one. The next one is Shonen Note. Shonen Note, boy soprano, is about a young boy who hasn't quite gone through puberty yet and has a beautiful soprano voice and wants to sing in the choir and just sing. He just wants to sing. And so it's his story, and that's all I'm going to say. Like, I don't feel like I can say more about this without spoiling things. So yes, I would definitely recommend Shonen Note. Shonen Note is so good. I love it. And then the last seinen I'm going to recommend is another one that surprised me recently, and that is Chojin X. In Chojin X, it's basically if Jujutsu Kaisen and Kaiju number 8 had a baby, this would be it. So essentially, this boy gets put in a situation where he and his best friend have to decide if they're going to become Chojin or not. Chojin are basically like half demon, half human beings. Some wreak havoc and some actually fight against the bad Chojin. And our main character converts into a Chojin where his best friend does not. And so it's kind of dealing with the ramifications of that, while also following another POV that I'm not going to say too much about. But essentially, they do end up in a school-type situation for Chojin, and it's amazing. I absolutely love it. Would 10 out of 10 recommend it. And the last is going to be josei titles. These are ones that I think will have a bit more crossover than some of the other josei titles I love. So the first one is I'm Kind of Chubby and I'm Your Hero. If you're a slice of life reader at all, this one's great, because essentially we're following this actor who is a bit of a chubby guy, and he sees all the handsome actors getting gifts and things, and all of a sudden he starts receiving things from a particular bakery. And so he walks into the bakery, and the person making and giving him the sweets recognizes him, but he has no idea it's him. He thinks it's a girl that works there. And so it's this very interesting dynamic. They are so cute. They are so precious. We're going to get the second volume soon. I can't wait. The next one I have here is one that's in Kodansha Digital Jail, but it is called Boss Wife. This is a Yakuza-style story, but it's a childhood friend coming back now that he has power to protect the girl he's always loved, and it's absolutely adorable. I love everything about it. Their chemistry is amazing. You actually get a lot of Yakuza politics throughout as well, which I appreciate. Some of the other Yakuza titles I read don't necessarily have that going for them, so I appreciated that one quite a bit. The next one is The Case Files of Jeweler Richard. Originally, when I read this, I thought it was a seinen, but it is actually a josei. But in this, we're following a gorgeous man who is a jewelry appraiser and seller, and he ends up taking on this apprentice, and it's about their adventures. That's all I'm going to say. It has a very like Holmes and Watson kind of dynamic between the two of them, because they do go and solve mysteries along the way. So it's really a lot of fun. Would definitely recommend it. The next two are going to be queer titles. So the first one I'm going to recommend is I Want to Be a Wall. And in this series, we're following a woman who is asexual and about how she marries a man who is homosexual and in love with his best friend who is straight. And so it's more a marriage of friendship than a romantic marriage. And it is beautiful to see how things develop there. And she's just kind of unaware of some things. And so their dynamic is brilliant and amazing. And I love everything about it. This one's going to be a short series. I think it's only 3 volumes that we're getting, maybe 4, but we've got 2 out in English right now, and I absolutely love it. I love this series so much. Like, it is so important because it can show that marriage can be something different to everybody, and that people who are asexual may get married, but it's not going to look like everybody else's marriage. And I loved that. Hi friends, Editing Shay here. So real quick, my microphone cut off like mid talking about this last volume, so I'm going to quickly talk about it here, and that is She Loves to Cook and She Loves to Eat. This Yuri title is one of my all-time favorites. This is very sweet. It's about 2 people who live on the same floor of an apartment complex. One loves to cook and one loves to enjoy food, and it's about how their friendship slowly starts to develop into more. You do see a lot of introspection, and in volume 2, there is a trigger warning just before you start a chapter. I'm not sure the trigger warning was actually necessary in my opinion, but yeah, that's kind of all I've got here to say about it, but it's beautiful, it's stunning, I love it. My battery's gonna die, so if you're here just because you love me, leave me your favorite food emoji, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye!
It's been raining for days now, been running like a child. Can't feel the cold, well I'm lost here with you, lost in the woods, lost as I should.